Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn. On this video, I'm going to show you how I made these Mother's Day signs. Now, what this is it's just 1/4 inch MDF, a couple of coats of paint, a sublimation print, and some lamination film. Then it's all put on under a heat press. You could use your Easy Press too if you have one of those. So, if you're interested in this project, keep watching the video. In the video, I don't show you how to make the design, I show you the process of putting everything together. If you're interested in this particular design, let me know. I'd be glad to do a video. Now, I did do it in Inkscape, so if you're willing to learn Inkscape, I'd love to teach you. The project I'm going to do today is very similar to the examples that I did on this MDF. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the process, and then I want to tell you what I learned through this experiment. To sublimate on MDF, first you're going to cut the MDF to the size you want. And this is just 1/4 inch MDF, medium density fiberboard, and I bought this at Home Depot. I'll put a picture of it in the video right here. And then on the back of one of these, it actually still has the label. So this is 1/4 inch thick. It started out as a 2 foot by 4 foot MDF handy panel, and then I've just cut them down to size. You can ask Home Depot to cut these as well. For about 8 square feet. The price this morning when I looked online was $7.49. So you're paying less than $1 per square foot. Now you can either sublimate directly onto the MDF after adding some lamination film, and you'll get this type of look. Since sublimation ink is somewhat translucent, you are going to see some of the color variation of the MDF through the ink, but if you're going for more of a woodsy look, that's a nice option. If you want your sublimation colors to pop, then I would put some white paint over your MDF. I tried 2 options for that. First of all, I tried just a spray paint, and I'll show you the differences here in a minute, and then I tried chalk paint. Once you have your wood panel the color you like it, then the next step is to add some type of lamination over the top. I have 3 options here. This is probably the most common option because you can buy these just about anywhere. They're 8.5 inches by 11 inch pouches. It comes with 2 layers, so you just split them apart and then you heat them onto your panel. Now these are 3 mils thick, and there's something about that I just don't care for. So I found another option. My favorite option is going to be option 3, but let me show you the second option. Sometimes you don't want your project to be glossy at all, and so the last lamination pouches that I showed you, they leave a clear gloss. This is something I bought off of Amazon, a little more expensive. These are 9 inch by 11.5 inch lamination pouches, but you see here they are a matte finish. You only get 25 pieces, and so it comes out to be a little more expensive than the other 2 options. But if you don't want that glossy finish, this can work. Again, these are 3 mil. I'm not thrilled with that thick of lamination on top of a lot of things, but it does work. Now my favorite option is right here. This is a huge roll of lamination film. The brand is School Smart, and I got this off of Amazon. You get 25 inches by 200 feet. When I bought this, it was about $25, and so when I did the math, it comes out to be well under 10 cents per square foot. So I will link to this in the description of the video. Sometimes companies require you to buy 2 rolls because on a lamination machine, you use 2 rolls. So they just have them boxed up together with 2 rolls. With this, I was thrilled I could get just 1 roll, and at only $25, I thought that was a great bargain. And this is only 1.5 mil thick, so it's half as thick as the others, and I've just found that it melts down into my substrate really well. I think the biggest difference that I've found is when you're trying to coat canvas to do sublimation on canvas, the thinner lamination takes the shape of the canvas just beautifully. Okay, so let me show you some things I learned on my sample piece. Now here it is. This was straight MDF, then my 1.5 mil lamination film on top, And then I sublimated my design right over the top of that. Now the middle one, I used chalk paint, and I used 2 layers of chalk paint. Now the downside of this, I wasn't real careful with it because I knew it was just a sample, and you can see brush strokes. And where there's brush strokes, the sublimation ink didn't take exactly evenly because part of the brush stroke was taller or thicker, and then part of it was sunken down. It's still very pretty, but it just wasn't quite as perfect as I wanted it to be. Now the third layer was spray paint, and it is very smooth. I only did 1 coat, and so you can kind of see the MDF coming through. If I did it again, I'd probably try 2 coats and see if that makes it better. So what I did on my final piece that I'm going to do today, first I sprayed a coat of spray paint on, and I use this brand right here. I don't think the brand's going to matter so much as long as it's white. So I sprayed this on very, very thinly to make sure it'd be very smooth. And then the second layer that I have on the piece I'll do today is this white chalk paint, and I just got this at Walmart. When I did my layer of chalk paint, I was very, very careful. I used a foam brush and I stretched it out very smoothly. And I really think that my boards turned out perfect. We'll see. Okay, so just a couple more things I want to show you. You might be able to see an indentation around this where my sublimation paper was. Because of the heat and the pressure, it pushes that paper down into the film, and then the heat melted the paper or melted an outline of my paper into the lamination film. So lesson learned, make sure your paper is bigger than whatever your substrate is. And then I wouldn't have this indentation. When you paint your substrates, before applying the lamination film or your sublimation design, I would wait at least overnight just so this has a lot of time to really harden up. The next thing that I want to do is go ahead and print my sublimation design because I want to give the ink time to dry. I'm going to print it on my Epson EcoTank 2760. I do have a video showing how I put the ink in this because you have to buy special sublimation ink. And then I'm going to use this Koala brand paper. I'll link to this in the description below. So on this printer, you have this little flap, and if you're feeding your sheets in one at a time, you lift it. And on the Koala brand paper, the back side has its logo, the front side is plain, so it's super easy to know how to load it. I like to use the high quality. Also, you do need to reverse your image or mirror your image if you're sublimating from the top of something. Now, sublimation ink is not as bright and vibrant before it's heated, and it's even a different tint. Look how blue that looks, kind of purpley blue. And then here's kind of the teal turquoise colors it'll be when I heat it on. Now my heat press is getting up to temperature, and I have it on a time of 90 seconds. That time is for my sublimation. I don't need to heat my lamination film on for 90 seconds. I'll do it about 10 seconds. So here's my panel. That's the one that had the 1 coat of spray paint and then 1 coat of Mod Podge. Now here's my lamination film, and you can tell the front from the back. The back is the side that it's trying to curl up on because that was the way it was on the roll. I have it cut just a little bit larger than my MDF panel. Then I'm going to go ahead and put 1 piece of blowout paper over it. Now by now my heat press is up to temperature. I have it for 90 seconds. Again, on this film, we're just going to put it down for 10 seconds. And really, your heat press doesn't have to be this hot for the film. So if you want to press it in while it's heating up, that's fine. Just make sure it's at least over 300 degrees. Okay, so let's look at this and see if it's adhered down. Okay, I can see a little bit of crinkling there. So there's not enough heat on the corners. It might be slightly bowed. I'm going to go ahead and turn it around. Put my paper back down, and then I'll do it for 10 more seconds. Okay, so hopefully 10 more seconds did the trick. Let me go ahead and take a look at it. And it is hot, but since it was only 10 seconds, it's not too hot. Now, before I said there was a little crinkling. It really wasn't crinkling. It was more wavy. It just wasn't adhered down. I think it was this corner. I don't know. It just wasn't adhered down as well as it needed to be. So 10 more seconds under the press did the trick. I need to let that cool down though. If I were to go ahead and put my sublimation image on that, the sublimation process could start, and I don't want that to start until I know my design is in the right place. Now here's an example of that. When I was doing my sample, I heated the lamination film, and then before letting it cool, I put my design on it. And you can see right here, there's a faint black line. Because when I moved my design, it had already started sublimating. So for that reason, I'm going to let this cool down quite a bit before I add my design. Now, at the beginning of the video, when I was giving my tips and lessons learned for my sample piece, inside my head I wondered, why didn't I go ahead and do another MDF panel with 2 coats of spray paint and no chalk paint? So I went ahead and paused my video, and I did 2 coats of spray paint on this. This has been several hours ago, so I let it dry outside in the sun. Then I came up here, and at 250, I placed it under my heat press, not putting the press down, just letting it hover like that. And I let it sit under there for, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes at 250. So now I'm ready to go ahead and add my laminate film to it. Once again, I'm going to start with 10 seconds. Then I'll look and see if it needs any adjustment. Okay, I can see where my paint maybe kind of is starting to melt. I'm not really sure. I think the top layer, maybe chalk paint would be better, but we're going to keep pressing forward with this. For now, I'll trim off a little bit more of the lamination film. Then I think I'll be ready to do my larger panel. Okay, now here's my design. And so hopefully that little line is showing up. So I'll put my design down and then flip my board over and just center it between all the lines. Now for 90 seconds, I'll go ahead and put this down. Okay, y'all, I realized that is upside down. That's not going to work. Let's see. Okay, I want to hold my paper down so it doesn't shift, and I pull it up all in one swoop. Now let me get this tape off. Okay, it looks wonderful, but my line that I was using to center it, I should have had my box just a little bit larger because it transferred over on this side. Now if I frame it, That won't matter, and I would like to make a frame for this. Okay, so here's my design for my smaller piece, the one that has 2 layers of spray paint. And once again, I have lines that are equal distance, at least from here to here, here to here is equal, and then below it and above it is equal. So I can center up my design that way. So if it needs to be perfect, I could actually take a ruler and measure to those lines. Then enough heat tape to keep your design from moving. Okay, so I'll flip this over, get it fairly centered in my mat. Let me get it covered. All right, that is double layered. So let's go ahead and press this and see if we get a gooey mess. All right, I want to lift it up on the side just so I can see if it needs to go down for any more time. No, that looks really good. I want to get this tape off. I don't want it folding over and sticking to the front. All right. Now the colors are beautiful. They turned out really nice. But what I can see is that with the heat press, the temperature and or the pressure caused the spray paint to squeeze out. Let me turn it around and show you what I'm talking about. See how the paint squeezed up onto the lamination film? So that makes me think maybe the top coat being chalk paint is a good idea. But it could be because I didn't let this dry overnight after spray painting it. If you try it with just spray paint, let me know your results. Now to finish up this project, I need to trim off the excess lamination film. And your project is only as good as what you make it. So I like to be really careful on this part and do as good a job as possible. Okay, so you can see all I've done is I've turned my board over, and then on something that I can really cut down into with my X-Acto knife or my knife blade, not sure what this is called, I just push the blade against the side of the board and then I run along it. Now this is the side where that paint squeezed out, so it might be a little bit harder to cut through. Okay, so those edges look really nice now. Now my bigger board, I'm going to have to take that downstairs and do it on a bigger cutting mat. My final thoughts about this project. Back to my sample board. When I did my sample board, I let this dry for a very long time. Since then, I've ruined at least 4 MDF boards because I didn't let my paint dry overnight. Somehow I got really lucky on this one, and I honestly, after all the boards that I've messed up, I'm not sure why this one worked. Because the others that I didn't let dry all night, they did not work. So I think the most important thing in this is make sure your paint's really dry and has had a long time to harden up. My husband asked me today, he said, why don't you just paint a bunch in advance and then you know you have them? Well, what a smart idea. So that's what I'll be doing in the future. That way, if I let them dry 2, 3, 4 days, even a week or 2, it's all the better. Thanks so much for joining me and sticking it out to the end. Until the next video, bye-bye.